been riding Uber boats up and down the River Thames and trying to articulate what I've seen and what I feel through sound and music. The brief was just soundtrack the river. Soundtrack the river, get on a boat as much as possible, ride it up and down between London Bridge and Royal Docks, and just have ideas about the music and about the architecture, how it made me feel and what it meant to me. It's also been about how I see London and seeing London in a different way and exploring London in a different way. The river, to me, has always been a barrier. It's always been something to get over, or almost like a wall between the two sides of London. It's always been something like that. I've never seen it as access. I've seen it always as something that is stopping something. I've never thought about it as something that I could access in the way I have. So the first thing I did was get the boat as much as possible and just be on the water as much as possible. Sometimes I'd just sit and listen, and sometimes I'd be listening to music on the boat. And then I'd be getting off at different points and walking around and spending whole days seeing London and just exploring London from the river. It's an amazing thing to be able to adventure around London in like a completely different way. Like getting on the boat and seeing all these different parts of London, but in a way that I haven't before. Grown up in London all my life, and that's like, this is a completely different way of seeing the city. And literally from just a completely different view, sat in between the two sides of the river. It's pretty incredible. What listeners can get from it is a sense of adventure and a sense of openness and freedom. Because that's the kind of feeling I've had. This idea that you can exist anywhere, you can be anywhere, you can go anywhere. The piece at the end will be around 10 minutes, and I think the best way to listen to it will be on the boat, but by water, next to bodies of water, and ideally, if that body of water is the River Thames. It will be accessible via a QR code on the boats, which would take you to the web, and you can listen to it via Musicity and the Thames Festival. A lot of my projects before have been a mix of composition. They'll have some talk in it, they'll have field recordings. And with this, I really wanted to focus on composition in a more classical way. So I'm thinking about more classical harmony, I'm thinking about classical structure when I'm making it, rather than a free-form, long, more ambient piece. I've been using like kind of classical theory in terms of counterpoint. So the way that two or more melodies interact with one another, and just trying to think about how those melodies kind of flow together and communicate with one another, and with that, you know, I think about, I guess the river in general, it's all about these things flowing. You know, things are in motion on the river, so it's about vessels passing each other on the river. But then also there's two sides of the banks that are coming past you at the same time. That everything is working individually, but as one. Well, one, all of the things that this project speaks to about freedom and freedom of movement and access to spaces, I think is always going to come back to my being black, always. But then also this wider idea of water and the calmness of water, and then also the history of water and my personal history, but also a diasporic history of water. The history of the Thames in that way is very interesting, and it's something I haven't really considered before either, is the fact that it stretches beyond London. It comes from somewhere, and where it comes from is also essentially where my family comes from, which is kind of crazy to me. If I follow it to the estuary and I follow it outwards, that's where my family came from originally, which is, yeah, it's just a crazy idea to me. This project will be a dot on the map of me looking at all of these things, all of the connections I have to water. This is a project in which I'm painting a picture of the most present body of water in my life, definitely. And I think if I look back on it, that's going to be a big part of me looking at my connection to water and our historic connection to water.